Well, here we are. It is Friday again. It's January 31st, 2025. And this is the weekly video. We cover these every Friday. Those of you who come each week know what we talk about. We go through auction results. We talk about the Asian and Japanese and Chinese, the Asian art market in general. We touch on textiles and carpets and other things. And occasionally we talk about other antiques. This week was sort of an interesting week. A number of very interesting things are starting to happen. And I'll get into them as we go along here, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. And there's some pretty good things that have turned up that'll be on the newsletter page this week, incidentally. So stick around till the end. It's funny, right now it seems that we're finding more interesting things on there than we are in some cases on the platforms of Live Auctioneers and Valuable and so forth. So I don't know what's going on. But last week there was some. We'll go through it. But last week there were some good auction results. And very encouraging auction results, actually, for some Chinese export wares. We've noticed we've commented on it. The export market seems to be sort of coming back in some areas and so forth. And we talked about some pieces. We're going to go through some results from Doyle's. The Sotheby's Americana sale had some very good China trade porcelain, and it did extremely well. And let's get into it. All righty. And we're going to start over here. This was the Sotheby's Americana sale. And they have, hold on a second. Move that out of the way. There we go. You remember these, all these armorial and 18th century export plates. We talked about them last week and the week before, or the week before, and went through some of them because they looked rather nice. I thought there were some awfully nice examples in there, but I was curious to see how they do because, as you know, a lot of Chinese 18th century export pieces have been very soft in some areas of the market. And in this case, the Americana sale, they were uniformly very strong across the board against the reserves. Now, one of the things that's happening in the auction market, and many of you are going to notice it, it's going to be very noticeable. They're trying to reduce their buy-in rates, so they're pushing very hard at Sotheby's and Christie's, I know, and Bottoms to get estimates down, to push down those estimates, and that way, when the sale's over, they can announce that they had either a white glove sale, which means everything's sold, or most of the lots sold above their estimates. So in some cases, they put in they're starting to sprinkle in some rather artificially low estimates, very much encouraging to bidders, but not necessarily accurate or reflective of what they're really going to bring in the end. They're going, for a while there, they were putting in high estimates on lots of things, high starting prices, and then trying to push people into them. And now what's happening is that the estimates have come way down on some things, and people are jumping in because a funny thing happens when people bid in auctions. If you place a bid on an auction lot, psychologically, a sense of ownership begins to wash over people, and they begin to feel that this is now theirs. They've committed to it. They're going to buy it, and then as other bidders come along, once you have a bid on a thing, for example, and somebody bids against you, you're not buying necessarily anymore to keep. You're not bidding anymore really to buy it as much as you're bidding to keep it. In other words, you've already committed to buying it, and by placing a bid on it, you want to own it. And now, when you're getting competition, now you're pushing back. You're fighting to keep it. And once bidders get into that sort of scenario where they're fighting to keep things, prices can get strong, and that's the typical psychology of the auction market. And in this case, there were a number of pieces here. As we go through them, you'll see what I'm talking about as far as the reserves and estimates go. And in this example here, we had this very nice ruby back plates. Ruby back plates have always been quite rare. As you know, they were done in the 18th century. They have these wonderful red backs on them, hence the name ruby back. And the photographs that they have here are excellent. By the way, if you're not that familiar with ruby back plates and you want to know what they look like, you can see them here, and you really get a look at the way the glaze is done on the backs of these. There's a slight like an alligator pattern to it. It's not glass smooth. You have these little ripples in it, and in their photograph, with the way the light reflects it, they're very evident. But the estimates they had them, I thought, were very reasonable. I didn't think they were particularly low in this case. They were estimated at 6,000 to 10,000. That's sort of been the ballpark for these over the years. And this is the Yong Chen period example. And in the end, it did very well. It went for 2.5 times its high estimate, selling for $26,400. It was a very nice example. And the one after it was even a nicer example. It was a bit finer. This particular type with the multiple borders and the lady in the central scene with her children and so forth. These multi-border examples typically do very, very well. And this one was finely done. Again, always when you look at these photographs, always check them areas of wear. Look at where the high points might be on the tops of enamels, gilding, and so forth. And you can get a pretty good idea of how the plate's been treated over the years. And this one was rather nice because the cartouche in the middle is done from a leaf pattern that was overlaid onto the plate first, creating this white background. There's the stem at the top, and then they fill it in the middle. And this is a beautifully done plate, a really lovely example. And this did quite well. It sold for $30,000 against, again, another $6,000 to $10,000 estimate. And the back of it, here it is. They had a little discoloration on the back here. You'll notice there was some burning or something that went on. Again, though, but you can still see that texture of the glaze. And that's an important thing to look for on these. That's an important thing to recognize. Not that they can't fake them today. I'm sure they probably can. But if everything else looks good and that's the texture of the back, it's probably okay. All right. And this was a very nice example. So good on Sotheby's for this. And then there was this bowl. We talked about this bowl a couple of weeks ago. I thought it was really terrific. I liked it had very much of the Chinese taste, and it had these ladies riding these sort of fanciful horses going around with bamboo script decoration floating over them and so forth. This was a beautifully done example. And as we talked, the gilded areas, which is outlined in red and then infilled with gilding, it all looked to be in very, very, very fine condition. And when you have something with this much gilding in fine condition, you have this rare pattern. We thought it would do very well. We thought it would certainly make the estimate, and it did more than that. And this was about a 15-inch bowl. Here's the interior of it. It's pretty much in pristine condition from what I can see. It looked like it was in very, very good shape. And it was estimated at $5,000 to $7,000, which seemed very reasonable. It ended up selling for $24,000. And that was a good price for that. It was a very, very good price. So it's starting to look like some of these export pieces are, there's some life in the old girl yet, or maybe it's coming back to a degree. And then there was this. Now, we've seen these mythological subject footed teapots, or coffee pots rather, sell in the past. They sell them in Europe. And often they've been offered, and often they don't sell. Because the people put estimates on them. And I've seen them not sell with $4,000 to $6,000 estimates, $3,000 to $5,000 estimates. This was a very nice one. It was quite finely done. It's got this very nice tapered form with these faceted sides, nice landscape decoration with figures on it and so forth. Some whimsical figures on there. I like that. And it was estimated. This one was estimated $6,000 to $8,000, and it ended up selling for a little over the estimate, $8,400. Which it isn't as much money as the other pieces, but it's very encouraging because these typically, when they've turned up in the past, they often don't go for much money or there isn't a lot of interest. And often, though, in fairness, they're damaged because this particular form of pot has a lot of areas that can get damaged. You got a finial that you got to worry about. You got to worry about the lid because lids often get dropped and cracked. And then you have this the spout side with this straight shaft coming up in this connecting porcelain here to hold to hold it together, because otherwise this spout wouldn't last 3 minutes without this brace in here, or the handles get cracked, or the little stem off the bottom of the handle does, or the ball feet get damaged. There's so many areas of vulnerability. This one apparently was in good shape, I guess, or if it had been repaired at all, it was done perfectly. So it did just fine. It brought $8,400. And then over here to the Monteith bowls, we mentioned these a few times. I just like Monteith bowls a lot. You'll notice you go back to some of the videos, I always point them out because I think they're such an interesting form. I'm not sure why, but they are to me. And this was a nice pair. And last week when we looked at it, I had mentioned I think I said that they had one bid at the low estimate, which was $10,000, and that apparently was the reserve. And we thought they'd do pretty well in the end, and they did. The pair together brought $15,000, including premium, as I recall. I want to make sure I get it right. $15,600, including the premium. So they did get right up there as we thought they might. But you never know. You never know. They could have gone for the $10,000 too. But across the board, when you look back at all of these results, they look pretty good. And this was one piece I'm showing. This was a very, very nice Kangxi type. It's a form that you see often. They turn up in Europe typically. There's a lot of them in Holland. This one was a very, very nice example. And one of our viewers, one of you folks, got these. He emailed me afterwards. He just did the old just leave a bid, leave bids. If you see something you like, even if you think it's going to go way out of your price range, and you don't want to stick your neck out because you don't want to spend too much money based on your own personal budget, but leave a bid anyway. Leave it if it's a silly bid. You never know, and it only takes a second to do it, and you never know when it'll pay off. And this fellow left a bid on this. It was a nice looking pair. One slightly taller than the other. They're sort of an assembled pair, as they like to call them, because the way they did them. But nice Kangxi example. There they are. And who sold these originally? Mueller. From the Mueller, Shirley Mueller's collection. These are very, very. She's a collector, an academic, and scholar. She's very well known. This was apparently something in her own collection. These were estimated at $3,000 to $5,000, and the guy emailed me that bought them. He was thrilled to death. He got them for $1,800 for the pair. $1,800 for the pair. That was a very good price. Very, very reasonable. Because these are pretty rare types of this form. This form and type doesn't turn up that often, and he got a buy. So good on him. And this is the kind of thing that you could leave 10 bids on a bunch of things in this sale. You're not going to get them, and then bang, you pick these up very, very reasonably for just about a little over half the low estimate, including the buyer's premium. This includes the buyer's premium because Sotheby's includes that in their prices sold. So good on that buyer. Smart. All right. And then some other things that went on. This is the Doyle sale. We talked about that sale that was coming up. This closed out just a couple of days ago on the 28th. 3 days ago, and they had a good sale in New York. This was a good auction. I'm going to go through some of the results, give you an idea of how things did, because we talked about all these things a couple of weeks ago when the previews were going on. There was this very nice gilt bronze Buddha of the infant Buddha, as he's known, but it was very interesting because it was sitting on an old base, on old bronze base. And often you see these figures without the bases. This one had a very nice base on it. The gilding looked to be in pretty good shape. It was a nice bronze. I really liked this, and it was estimated at $4,000 to $6,000, which, as I said at the time, was extremely reasonable, and it went way over that. Ended up selling for $10,000 plus premium, because on live auctioneers they don't display premium, so you always have to add basically 30% to whatever the selling price was to get the final all done, all in, what people pay for things. So in the end, this was $13,000. So it was more than 2 times the high estimate. But it was a really nice example. And then there was this bronze, and I had talked about this bronze a little because I wasn't certain that the lid was original because the casting style was quite a bit different than the rest of the piece. Well, apparently some people must have looked at it and decided the cover was okay. Because sometimes covers on bronzes also get taken off and get put somewhere, and they're sort of protected and out of the environment and not getting dirty and not getting discolored, while the bronze is sitting in a room someplace for 40 or 50 or 100 years, and it'll look, by the end time it's over, the body of the bronze could look quite a bit different than the lid if the lid is being stored in an environment that isn't going to expose it too much. So evidently the lid on this was fine. Nice looking bronze. I like this very, very much. As I said, I suspect it was probably a Yuan example, but beautiful color, nice warm brown color on it. And in the end, it did very well. It brought 11,000 plus premium, so around almost probably close to $14,000, 13,500 for it, somewhere around 13,300, I guess is what it comes out to. But very, very nice looking bronze. And then there was another bronze over here, this rounded form with the mask handles and rings on them and so forth, estimated at $3,000 to $5,000 with the premium. It came in at a little over $5,000. Here it is. It was dated as being 17th century, with a 6.5 inches tall, and probably had a Joinde mark on it. Yeah, Joinde mark on the bottom, and 4,200 plus premium, so about $5,100. All right, very nice example, though. Very, very attractive, good form, and all that stuff. And then over here, you remember we talked about this. There were two big blue and white dragon basins in this sale. One of them was Jiajing, which is this one, and there's also a Wan Li example. And I thought they were very, very nice. That when their condition was a little bit rough, but boy, they were pretty. They were just the color of the cobalt, and they were mark and period after all. I mean, that does make a big difference. But they had some hairline cracks. You can see the cracks even from here. There's a crack there. There's something going on over in here, and so forth. But rare birds, and it's got their original tin liners that were put in typically during the second half of the 19th century. They put these tin liners in them. People used them as planters. And this person obviously had, I'm assuming they came out of the same house because there were two of them and they're virtually identical, just being from slightly different periods. This one did very well. It was estimated at 50 to 70,000, which I thought was reasonable. Went over that. Ended up selling for 85,000 plus premium. So you're at about 110,000 on this, but they were very striking. They were very, very attractive. And then there was the other one over here, the Wan Li example, estimated at 30 to 50,000, ended up selling for about $53,000, a little over the high estimate. At the end. And this one had, you may recall, had that big staple repair on it here, this brace right here. And then they put those on when they get a hairline in. They don't want the whole piece splitting apart. So they put a little staple in there to hold it in place. And they're very effective. It's a very good way to conserve it. And has the same identical tin liner. There's the other one. So I think there's little doubt they came from the same house. But very nice. And here's another look at that iron staple, that cleat that they put in. Sometimes they call them cleats, and it looks like there might have been a little repair over in here. These have been used, obviously, but they weren't. This isn't all from being in Europe. They were used in China, of course, and they had imperial marks on them. So about 53,000 for that. And then hopping along, this was something I just liked it a lot. And I did a video on the Patreon page talking about this piece. I just thought this sort of clear to lune ovoid thing, I just thought it was such a wonderful shape. Just loved the shape of it, and the staple repairs didn't bother me at all. I thought the fact that it's got staple repairs to me just shows somebody really loved this thing, and it had probably been kicking around a house, and they had plants in it, and who knows what they did with it, because it was pretty good size. It's technically, they call them fish bowls for the size. How big was this one? It was 24 inches tall, so it was 2 feet tall. It's a pretty good piece. This isn't a 10 or 12 inch jar. It's a 2 foot tall pot. Very, very attractive though. Very, very nice color. I do wish they had included a picture of the bottom because I'd love to see how they did it. I suspect it's a sort of a tapered from the outside to the end with a bull nose and then straight into the base. But I would have loved to have seen what the foot was like on this. And this was estimated at $2,500 to $3,500. And with the buyer's premium, it came in at about $6,000. So way over the high estimate and almost doubling it. But unusual, very, very pretty, great color, and big. And as I said, the staples don't bother me. Staple repairs like this don't bother me. It's just somebody loved the thing, and they put staples in it because it got damaged, which is a wonderful, wonderful way to treat it. And then there was this Lohan fan. This was a nice fan. I liked this a lot. I thought this was very beautifully done. A lot of delicate groundwork of the flowers, rocks, and trees, mythical beasts, and then the immortals, the stand out because they were done in white, but lots of detail on the faces and so forth. And I thought this was a very, very nice object, just a very attractive kind of thing you don't get tired of. They're dating at 18th or 19th century. They're thinking probably Rick at Doyle's is probably thinking late Qianlong, early Jiajing period, which is perfectly reasonable estimate way to do it. There are no hard lines really, but in a lot of this art between one period and another, and typically, not always, but typically. And it sold for $1,900 plus premium, so about $2,500 all done. Very attractive piece. All right. And then hopping along over to here, this was that pair of vases that was in a little sale right up here on Cape Ann. This was this nice pair of vases Mei Pings that I talked about last week. I thought they were nice. This was at Cape Ann auctions. They came out of a local estate with a bunch of celadons, and some of the pieces were sort of bounced around and whatnot, but still very, very nice pieces, good study pieces, good examples. And these were quite attractive. As I said, I believe they were pretty obviously 18th century. And at the end, they did fine. They brought $1,300 plus premium, or around $1,600, or $800 a piece, which is right there. That's about where they should be Very good result. All right. And then back over to this. You may remember this was at Case Antiques. And I like Case down in, they're down in Knoxville, right? Knoxville, Tennessee. They put together good sales. They do a good job down there. I'm so, they're sort of in the spirit of Bronx and Leland, Little and those places. There's some very nice Southern auction houses that really do a good job, and they get the money. It doesn't matter, where they are, as long as they get the results people want. And Case gets consistently good prices for things. And they had this, and we talked about this probably a month ago. It was one of the nicest Shibayama cases I'd seen in a long time. I went over it. I sort of raved about it, I guess. I thought it was elegant as all get out. Had a lot of mother and pearl in the work. Beautifully done. It looked to be in quite excellent condition. Good paint decoration. No damage to the corners. All the hardware looks original to it and all that sort of thing. Here's a nice side shot of it. It's got these beautiful mountains on the end panels. And so there's just a striking piece of furniture. That's all there is to say about it. It's just absolutely striking. And done during the Meiji Restoration period, and ended up selling for $22,000 plus premium, or about $30,000. And if you're a Japanese collector, you're going to say, yeah, I haven't seen a Shibayama case sell for $30,000 in a while. And it was only estimated at $3,400 to $4,400, which I thought was extremely reasonable, of course. And it was very smart of Case to put it in that way, because it encourages participation. And let's take a look here, see if we can get this thing to open up. Will this thing open up? Okay. Oh, there it is. That's it. It went from 1,700. It opened at 20,000, which means they had a couple of competing bids at 20,000, and then one more bid at 22, and that was the end of it. So it was three bids and done. Now they may have had action on the floor, action between phone bidders, action on another auction website, and over here they just entered the numbers once they got caught up. So it doesn't mean that there were only 3 bids, I suppose, but it was still a spectacular piece of Shibayama work. Really, really lovely. But it's a good sign for the Japanese market. And they also had this. You remember the cricket cage? And I had talked about this cricket cage a few times because I loved the top of it, loved the surface, even though it wasn't perfect. Cleaned up, this would be very, very nice. It's got some separation here on the collar around the top, but the gourd itself is a beautiful color, that beautiful orangey brown color. Very, very lovely, warm color. And in the end, it did fine. I thought it might bring a little more than that, but it ended up at about $1,300 plus including the premium, which is good. I think originally we talked about, we said 1,000 to 1,500, somewhere in there, maybe 2,000. But it was a very nice example. I think the little bit of damage on the top probably might have held it back a bit, but the surface of the top with the figures, I just thought was lovely. And this could all be cleaned up very, very gently with a little Q-tip and a little lemon oil and so forth. Go around it gently, be patient, and this would look absolutely wonderful. And you get the details of the figures, get their faces and so forth. Very, very nice. And then over to this, they also had that very nice snuff bottle. And in the end, as I recall, it was starting out at a very modest estimate, or a very modest price for opening bid. Maybe it was a $500 opening bid or something. And it ended up selling for $2,300 plus the premium, which would put it right up at about $3,000 for the bottle. So actually a little lower than I thought it would bring. I thought it might bring $4,000 or $5,000, I think. But somebody got a good buy on it. But it was a really lovely bottle. It was a very, very lovely decorated bottle, and it looked to be the decoration was all in very, very nice condition. Beautifully done. And the jade, the mutton fat jade color here is very good. Very nice soft color. I like that. And so $2,900 to $3,000 for the bottle. All right, and then hopping along over to here, some things that are coming. Oh no, is this the stair sale? The stair sale. Here we go. This is the results from Stair Gallery. Like I said, there were several good sales this week, and this was the Stair Gallery sale that we had talked about a week or two ago. We'll go through these. They had the Chinese portrait of the young woman. I thought this was a very nice portrait. I thought the estimate was reasonable. Here she is, beautifully done, nice condition. Somebody got a really good buy. And it may be because it was kind of on the big side, 25 by 20 inches and shipping it and all that sort of thing. But it ended up going for about $1,800 or, well, Yeah, $1,800 with the buyer's premium, roughly somewhere around there. But it was a nice painting. It doesn't take away from the painting at all. Absolutely lovely painting. And then they had this. This may have been the bargain of the day. And I think may have been because they didn't say that it was tea production. This was a tea production portrait, pretty rare. Now they said it was slightly faded, so maybe in natural light it doesn't look quite this good. I don't know, but very desirable subject matter for trying to trade. And this was a big one too. It was 22 by 26 inches, the frame size, the overall size, and ended up selling for 400 plus premium. So all said and done, around about $540 for this picture. But that was a very nice buy. That was a good China trade painting, and it was not on pith. This was on either Chinese or English paper, one or the other. But very, very attractive. There we go. And then over to this, the Gluckig bereavement plate. As I said, these in the past have sold for huge amounts of money. It hasn't gotten to these yet. This one sold for $2,200. I believe the sticker on the back of it had sold a number of years ago, 20 years ago, for $12,000. They're very rare. You do see them turning up. If you go over to, I checked after I did the video last week, and there are a couple of them that had sold at Christie's and I think maybe at Bonham's. So you can go and look them up. You can go look them up in the price results and do some comparisons, but it doesn't change the fact this is a very, very nice China trade plate. And these sort of Yongshen examples with these very, very soft colors. There's a softness to the colors on here that are very, very desirable. Really lovely. And I love the three ships on it. All right. And then hopping along over to, if you can hear my dog, I'm sorry about this. Buck is a little excited. It's been busy around here lately. Hold on, is this the paper making. This is a nice picture, and I thought it was quite unusual because you don't see paper making portrayed very often in export paintings and Chinese paintings. And this was a series. There were 6 paintings in here, but this is the one that was the most, I'm sure, is the reason the lot did well. It's a very interesting subject matter, extremely interesting subject matter. And then there's some more typical everyday scenes and so forth. Not all that exciting. Hold on a minute. Okay, I'm back. Buck got stuck between on the front porch between the doors. My wife went out, and he was trying to follow her, and he was out there howling, trying to get outside to be with her. So anyway, that's what happened. I couldn't figure it out. Anyway, back to this painting. This is a very nice series of paintings. As I said, most of the 5 other pictures are rather mundane. Not mundane. They're perfectly attractive. But the one with the paper making was quite interesting, quite an interesting bit. And I think this is what drove the interest in this quite hard. Was this scene here? All right, the drying stones, and the vat over here, and then the finished paper, of course, on the right-hand side. And in the end, it did much better than the estimate. It was estimated at $300 to $500, and with the buyer's premium, came in at about $2,000. But it was a nice lot. And this would be a fun thing I always wish somebody would put together just a collection of these kinds of scenes, the production of materials. And I know the museums all have them. The Peabody Museum has an amazing collection of this stuff, but tea making, porcelain making, basket weaving, paper making, the skills and so forth that they had were quite phenomenal. And the Chinese, of course, made absolutely outstanding paper. Some of you look at Ming paper, if you ever come across a piece of blank Ming paper, it is snow. Typically, they're as white as they were the day they were made. Beautiful condition. And then over to this is very nice. This was a rather large rose mandarin vase, probably made around 1830 or 40 and so forth. It was 18 inches tall. It had these very delicate chimeras going up the neck. It had been drilled, I suspect, as a lamp because it's fitted onto a lampstand, but very nice quality, very decorative and big, 18 inches, nice big lamp. Here's a side view of it. The colors look nice. The gilding, you'll notice on the chimeras, was in excellent condition. There's no wear on here. That helped the price quite a bit, I suspect. A very, very attractive thing. And in the end, it brought $1,400 plus the premium. So about $2,000 for the vase or the lamp. With a $700 to $900 estimate. And then after that came the chamber stick again with another very attractive chimera. This one had a little bit of wear on it, but it's an unusual form. And in the past, candlesticks haven't done terribly well. Cricket sticks and candlesticks, they sort of been very soft in the market. Of course, often they're damaged. They have, repairs to them. They get knocked over. They're on dining tables because they were functional. They were highly functional. And whenever you have something that's functional and it's delicate, it's prone to damage, especially if it's a little on the vertical side. The taller candlesticks are much more prone because they're much tippier, even with the fairly wide base. But this was a nice one. These are chamber sticks. And these are what you would use. You'd put a candle in it to light your way to go to bed at night, basically. That's what they were for. You didn't want to walk through your house with an oil lantern because if you dropped it, you'd burn your house down. So you could easily use a candlestick. And you could walk through, and when you get to your bedroom at night, you could put it on the nightstand, and you get into bed, you have a little gentle light, and you blow the thing out, and then you go to sleep. And that was it. This is what they were made, to get you through your house, because there were no lights. And this was a very nice example. And then over to this. This is some of the things that are coming up. And this is an interesting little sale. There's a small sale coming up at Drew Eats. It's mostly furniture and other things, but there's a few pieces of Chinese and Japanese and Asian ceramics in there. You might want to look at it. If you're a Japanese Arita buyer, you might want to pay attention to this. This is a big one. It's looks like a late 17th century Arita jar. Probably made around 1690 to 1710, somewhere around there. Very nicely done, but big, 56 centimeters tall. And I would get a clarification. Is that the overall height, or is that the height of the jar? The lamp overall. Okay, the height overall is 56 centimeters. Well, it's still pretty big. That still looks like about a 17-inch jar. That's a good sized jar, and it's nicely decorated. Very nicely done. You might want to ask them to make sure the top hasn't been ground down. It doesn't look like it has. It looks pretty good. They're a little stingy on photographs on this. It's just a couple of pictures, but it's a nice looking thing. The estimate is very reasonable, 600 to 1,000 pounds. Starting price is 600 pounds. It's certainly worth that. This is a nice example, and it would and I would keep it as a table lamp. Have elegant table lamps. Elegant table lamps are very nice. I like them. Beautifully done. And also in the sale is this. This is a rather attractive plate. And it's a style and pattern that isn't all that rare. But the composition, the way this one is done, I think is very, very effective. It's got a very nice, very deep, rich underglaze blue going around it, and then overglaze enamels. And the enamels are, it's a very limited Amari palette, of course. It's just basically reds and golds and blues. That's it. It seems like more. The basket is sort of simply done, but whoever decorated did a very good job, again, using that negative space, leaving some whiteness in between, not feeling, sometimes less is more. And in this case, less is more, because it really looks like the basket of flowers in the middle, which was a very popular pattern. It went right, it's still being used today. The Qianlong period, they did lots of basket of flowers things. This was a Kangxi example. Probably they're dating it as 17th century. I assume they mean early Kangxi period, 1690s or something, rather than earlier, obviously, because it's not a transitional thing, and it's not Ming, that's for sure. But it's a very nice one. I think it's very nicely done, very well potted, nice looking, high quality production here on the back, nice quality clay. The little sprigs on the back are very delicately drawn, have a real Zen look to them. And it measures 35 centimeters in diameter, or about 14 inches wide. But it's a very pretty plate. It's got a very low estimate, 200 to 300 pounds. This is quite an attractive plate for that such a low estimate. And I like the sparseness of it, the way it's done. So you might want to look into that. All right, if you're bored and looking for some mischief to get into. Now, this is something that came up, and it's interesting because somebody emailed me about something else in this sale, and I already had this on the watch list a few days ago. Is this Ming dish? Now, apparently it's got a couple of old repairs on the rim or something, but this is an unusual sort of Wan Li Swato type of piece here. This is the back of it. The Swato sand all over it, but it's a basin. It's a bowl. You don't see these very often. This is sort of an unusual example. You do not see these very often. He's very excited today. Buck. Oh, you know what it is? Our next door neighbor has a dog. That's what it is. They've been playing. Buck has a girlfriend, by the way. Buck, come here, buddy. What is it? And I think she's coming over. I'm not sure. This is a golden retriever next door. Anyway, they hang out in the yard for hours, chasing each other around. Back to the basin. This is a nice Wan Li example, and it is pretty good size. It's 12 1/4 inches wide. It came from just all they're saying is a Long Island house in New York. But if you want to own a pretty big sort of Wan Li a basin in this pattern with this checkerboard sort of pattern or diaper pattern running around it, and then this nicely decorated rim. It's just sort of a nice example, I guess is what I'm saying. And the estimate I think is pretty reasonable, 2,500 to 5,000. I think it'll more likely sell somewhere in the 2,000 to 3,000 range than closer to 5, but you never know. But I just caught my eye as being sort of fun. And this is something coming up at Doyle's in New York. And the plate on the bottom is a very nice Kangxi Amari example, beautifully done. Again, lots of negative space, but notice the gilding on the flowers. Everything in this plate looks like it's in very good condition. And then above it is, and these pieces are pretty big because they said the largest piece here is 17 inches. And I'm assuming it's that platter on the right. But again, these overblown massive flowers, coming up out of the above the balustrade. This is an interesting Chinese decorative technique that you see often, where you have peonies and blossoms that are wildly disproportional to how big they'd really be in life. Because here you have a balustrade which is about up to a human being's waist, and then you have these massive flowers coming out at you out of the garden. It's sort of an abundance. But this is sort of a nice lot if you like China trade. And the other plate here, the other platter here, this is a piece of clobberware. It's sort of interesting. And this is their, what is it, out of the Boston sale or something they call it. But I think all the stuff is actually in New York. They ship it down. They pick up stuff here and they send it to New York. But this is a nice piece of clobberware. Very elegantly done, beautifully done. And then you have that bottom plate. And the whole lot's only estimated at $400 to $600 with a $200 opening bid. And as of right now, there are only 3 bidders watching this sale. The sale is in just a week. So there's a chance. Always look for short notice sales. If you go into Live Auctioneers or Invaluable or any of these sites, when you do a search, always say most recently posted, and then immediately check the auction dates, because sometimes auction houses they get a little lazy, as I mentioned before, and they may not bother posting their sale onto the web until 4 or 5 or 6 days before the auction, which is a terrible disservice to the customer. If I was a customer and I had something in a sale that didn't get promoted at least 3 weeks in advance, I'd probably pull the lots out, because they're going to give you stuff away for you. You run a high chance of it. You want 3 weeks to 6 weeks of exposure on the web before an auction to get the maximum prices for yourself as a seller. Now, as a buyer, you want to look for short notice sales that go up, and the sales in somewhere between 2 or 3. I've seen sales go up 2 days before. I've seen auctions go up on this site 2 days before the auction, 3 days before, and they don't do well. It's a great place to buy. And often it happens before I can even tell you folks about it, because the sale gets posted on Sunday and the auction's on Tuesday, and I hear about it slightly afterwards because I don't look every minute of the day. But again, always look for short notice sales, because sometimes some good things turn up and you get a great value. All right, and then over to this. This is just a neat thing. I was talking about it over on the Patreon page with the users. We did a couple of videos over there this week for the Patreon subscribers, and one of the pieces was this piece. Now, this item had been up for sale before. This was down at Aqaba Galleries down in Dana Beach, Florida, and I don't know what happened. I don't know if they got some crazy estimate on this thing or something nutty, but it didn't sell last time it was up. And it's a perfectly good thing, and they're sort of spitting on the piece by overestimating and fooling around with it. This is a nice thing, and it's Japanese, probably Edo period, first half of the 19th century, I suspect, but a very interesting piece of pottery. I love this thing. They're calling it a foo dog or something, or a pug dog, or lion dog. It measures about 12 inches tall. It's just sort of a very interesting, evocative piece of pottery. Very interesting, and I don't think it's worth a fortune. I think it'll probably sell for somewhere between $800 and $1,400 maybe. But it's a nice example. If you like unusual pieces of Japanese ceramic, you might want to look at that. This is Aqaba has this, and then over to this. This is back to Stair Gallery's got a sale coming up. This is a small sale. They don't have a lot of Asian stuff in it, but they do have this. And of course, those of you who've been watching any length of time know why this caught my eye. It's got horses in it. And this is a very nice Chinese painting, series of paintings. There's 6 of them, all framed, all ready to hang with script with these very nice horses. And I'm assuming these paintings are probably are late Qing or Republic period. From what I can see, I don't really care. I think they're very nicely painted. Notice the willow trees here, the amount of detail in every branch, all these thousands and thousands of little branches in here that the artist managed to add in. But the horses are charming, and they're all in different scenes and landscape scenes and so forth. This is a very nice lot. And as I harp on all the time, when you look at this lot, what do you see? You see these beautifully done frames. Now, the estimate on these are very, very reasonable. Just $800 to $1,200 for all six, or they're estimating them at around $150 a piece. Well, the frame on these pictures is, I'm going to say it, these frames probably cost $400 to $500 each. So you've got $2,400 worth of frames. And then you've got the paintings thrown in. So what's the lot worth? Well, I think their estimate is probably going to come in probably pretty close to true. I think they might bring a little better. I think they might bring 1,500 to 2,500, but I don't think you'll cover the frame costs. This is a nice lot, and six of these would make a room, and they're good size. They're 10 by 16 inches, including the frame, the overall size. So 10 inches by 16. So it would be a wonderful display to put in a hallway or in a dining room, or even in a master bedroom or something, or in a library. It would be a great arrangement of, two by two by two, in a room somewhere, because the colors are good. I don't see any damage. They look like they're very well kept and so forth. So if you like horses and you like paintings, you might want to look at those. And as a reminder, this sale is coming up tomorrow. This is the Sunburst Auction Gallery sale. And in it, they have this very, very nice bronze that was actually sold at the Stephen Jungkook sale back in the 90s. There it is. That's the real deal. That's a nice looking bronze. Very, very nice. And if you know the story about Stephen Jungkook, he was one of the great 20th century collectors. And for a time, people were really wondering when is this collection going to run out? Because the family has been selling things from the Jungkook collection now for over 20, 30 years. I don't know how long it's been. A long time. He's a Midwest guy who really fell in love with collecting, and he bought some absolutely stupendous things. He owned I think it was a tool and die factory or something. He did a lot of work for the government during the war. And I think he was highly successful, and he bought a lot of art, and he had a very, very good eye. All right, that's the catalog of the Jungkook sale. One of the Jungkook sales. There've been many, many, many Stephen Jungkook sales, and it's all good stuff. And there's the bronze, so you might want to look at that. Right now, it's up to $2,250 with a $30,000 to $5,000 estimate. It's probably going to bring $5,000 to $7,000. I'll just say it, but it's a very nice bronze with good provenance. All right, and then hopping along over here on eBay, there's a few things I wanted to mention. One of them is one of our viewers is selling on there, and he's got this very, very nice looking. Let's see, sort of a. There we go. Ming looking vase, Mei Ping vase. 16th century. I don't know when he dated it. It looks 16th century to me, 15th or 16th century. Yeah, this just went up yesterday or a few days ago, rather. Right now, it doesn't have a lot of action on it. I don't know why. I think it's going to take off at the end. But this is a nice looking base, and it's absolutely authentic, and it's only up to $96. It closes on Saturday, late tomorrow. So do check that out. It'll be on the newsletter page this week. And he's got some other things there that are quite nice looking too. And then there's the Japanese Arita jug. This is from the ceramics, the Shangri-La guys, I call them, ceramics and collectible seller. This one has a staple repair on it, but you can see the hairline in the body, and there's this sort of wanky looking staple coming out of it. But it's a nice looking piece of Arita. It's up to $102, but if you're looking for a good old 17th century Arita pot, and you don't mind a repair and you like the pattern, you might want to go after that. And then this is also with them. Now this is a pretty rare bird. This I was kind of surprised to see this up here. Hold on a minute. It's a ink stick holder or incense stick holder rather. Incense holder, geometric design. Oh, where are the dimensions on this thing? These are very small. They're usually like 2 or 3 inches tall, I think. Where is it? They always hide there. Yeah, 6 centimeters high. So it's a little over 2.5 inches tall. It's a very small one. It's a box basically, but really, really nice, very rare type. You do not see these very often. I'm just going to say it. It's already got 53 bids. It's up to $1,259. It's late Ming, possibly one Li somewhere in there. It could even be heading toward the transitional period, but very, very nice quality, and it looked to be in very good condition and a rare form. This is a nice scholar's object. If you collect scholar's objects, you want to pay attention to this. This is a good thing, a very good thing, and they don't come up very often. And expect it to bring 2,500 of $3,500, I suspect, somewhere around there. We'll come back and check it next week, see how they did. And the other thing is this. This is in on the newsletter page. This is a nice piece of clapperware with this very beautiful, brilliantly colored lime green ground. I like cups. This is a nice looking cup, and it's got the relief work flowers on it. There's the bottom of it. It's an 18th century cup and so forth. Very well done. And this is a seller. I don't know who this seller is. A fairly new seller. Bebel. Bebel. I think they're in Europe somewhere, aren't they? Oh, in the UK. There we go. In Kenley in the UK. Nice looking cup coming from Kenley. And then over to this. This is a very attractive fan, nice export fan. And you'll notice the blades are done in lacquer. This fan was probably made around 1850 to 1870, roughly, somewhere in there. There you go. And it's got this very nice the island scene on the river in China, and coming out of Canton. And then you have all this lacquer work. And did they show the back of it? Sometimes they don't. Oh yeah, they did. There it is. It's just got figures on it, and that's sort of typical. The one side would be very elaborate, and then the other side they'd have horsemen or just figures sort of quickly drawn. Not as fine. The work on the back is not going to be as fine as the work on the front. That's not unusual. Here's the work on the front. It's very, very well done, and the back of it was sort of done quick. They do them more quickly. Sometimes it's people. Sometimes it's just flowers. Or sometimes it's just a mountain scene going along, and in this case it's people. And but this is nice, and I like the salmon colored ground. The blades and the lacquer look to be in good condition. And right now it's at just $202, but it ends in 5 days. It ends a week from yesterday, so it ends next Thursday. It'll be on the newsletter page all week. It's a good thing though. If you're a fan buyer, you want to look into this. This is a nice example, and so forth. And then last is this. This is Jagarts Limited over in the UK has this. This is a very nice little Japanese, probably Edo period, 19th century Edo period Enro with a dragon on it. This is a nice box. Very, very nice, very smooth. You know, the Japanese cinnabar tends to be, in many cases, smoother and more sort of rounded on the edges. It's not quite so crisp and sharp as some 19th century Chinese carved cinnabar. But this is a nice one. This is very attractive, and it looks to be in. Looks like it's in very good shape. Look at that. Yeah, it's fine. It looks okay. Maybe check with them, make sure it's in good condition. Make sure there's not. Sometimes when the sections come together on these, you get some interior chipping where the edges meet because sometimes people aren't as careful as they should be. But if it doesn't have any significant chipping to the inside from the pieces being disassembled and put back together, you might want to look at it. You might want to consider that. That's a nice looking thing. It's up to 131 US or 105 pounds. We'll see how it goes, but it's a nice thing. There's a whole bunch of stuff. I'm looking around. I've also found some new buy it now things on the newsletter page, so you might want to check that out this week. And the global pages will be updated this week. There has been a lot going on. The rug sale that took place, Material Culture had their rug sale this past week. It did just fine. There was a Turkoman piece in there that I really wanted to buy, and it went way over. It went way over what I was ready to spend for it. So move on. Go to the next thing. That's all. It was a nice piece, though. They've gotten some good carpets in there lately. And there's interesting American furniture and furniture results have happened in the last week or two. And I'm hoping to do a video on that subject in the next week. I mentioned that over on Patreon. I sort of put a video up the other day and asking people we're going to start doing more sort of some general antique auction things to sort of build appreciation for it right now, because there doesn't seem to be a lot of appreciation for antiques in the art world anymore in many areas anymore. I don't know why. It drives me crazy. Because and I think that you'll see the auction houses coming back too. Incidentally, as an aside, Sotheby's had their end of the year report. It was dismal. They tried to put lipstick on the pig, but it was a bad year. They had a very poor year. There's no doubt about it, and they think they have things in place that'll turn it around, because they've got a double problem now. The wine market is slowly collapsing. The wine, because they committed themselves to selling wine. So have the other auction houses. The wine market is in heavy decline overall, because of seltzers and other drinks and changes in the beverage market. The wristwatch industry is on the skids very badly. Rolex reported a few months ago they exported 50% fewer watches in 2024 than they did in 2023. The Nike sneaker thing, I think, is pretty much kaput, and nobody wants NFTs anymore. And these computer generated nonsensical art pieces that they're trying to learn how to manufacture, auction with sort of a little spin, high-end luxury goods and manufactured things that they can sucker people into. And I think it's just a horrible train wreck. And hopefully they'll get back to basics. Maybe they'll have to let go some more people until the interest in the art market revives. But it's not reviving very well because they're not that interested in it themselves anymore. It's terrible. But at any rate, we'll editorialize later another time. Everybody have a great weekend. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. Here on YouTube, visit us over at bidamount.com. If you're a regular viewer and you want to support the channel and support our work and things, come over to Patreon and join up over there. As I said, we put things on there fairly often, 5-6 times a week, and little things that are going on, whatnot. It's sort of a little community. We have now a few hundred members, and it's a lot of fun. So think about that. All right. See you all next week, and stay warm out there. It is a little chilly, and as a reminder, next week will be the last video we do until we go away on our trip. I meant to mention this before. We, as a lot regulars all know, we go to Central America in the winter, and for a few weeks, and we're leaving around the 10th or the 11th of February. I'm not sure. I got to ask my wife. Around the 11th of February, and we're coming back around the first week of March. And we're going back down to Central America to get caught up on reading and relaxing and sleep, and in an 85-degree climate. So anyway, that's what I'm doing. All right, but we'll do videos from down there. We do them down there too. During when we were there last year, we did videos each week as well. But I just remind everybody that that we're leaving, and won't be doing inquiries after another couple days. All right, because I got to get that wrapped up. All right, have a great day, and see you all soon. Bye-bye.